Good morning, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to listen to the story of our first half results. I have with me today Victor Prevan in the room here in Kent Town in Adelaide in our office as well. We have the deck. If we could we have the disclaimer, and then we fold through to our first slide on page 3, discussion of our business. As all of you are aware, following the sale of the business, the laser and ultrasound business, our renamed Nova Eye business comprises 2 segments rather than 3, a glaucoma surgical device business and a business in laser therapy for chronic age-related retinal conditions. First, on the glaucoma surgical device segment, glaucoma is the leading cause of blindness in the developed world. At the end of this deck, there is a little bit of background on glaucoma if you wish to read it. Treating glaucoma with surgical devices is a very fast-growing segment, and the minimally invasive glaucoma devices are coming to be shown to be better treatment than pharmaceuticals. So at Nova Eye, we aim to grow market penetration of our 2 proprietary glaucoma technologies, the iTrack device and the Multino 3. The Multino 3 is the acquisition we made on 31st of July this year, and we're in the process of building a portfolio of complementary consumable glaucoma devices that can leverage our sales and marketing infrastructure. Our iTrack device, we can say, has the highest safety profile of any MIGS device in the world. Multino 3, which is what is known as a glaucoma drainage device for later stage disease, was the original such device and has the longest history of proven clinical efficacy in the world. Now, many of you will see, well, one particular thing we're proud of is that despite the impact of the global COVID-19 pandemic, the EBITDA level results of the glaucoma surgical device was just a few $100,000 less than break even. That is a very big change compared to the prior comparative period and other years, and I'll talk about that a little further. On laser therapy, turning over to laser therapy, 2RT, for chronic age-related retinal disease, the treatment of early-stage macular degeneration represents a significant unmet clinical need in ophthalmology. We are currently in the process of funding a commercialisation pathway. Our spend during this 6 months relates almost exclusively to the work we've been doing with the FDA on that topic, including the formation of a new subsidiary, HYFY21, which houses all of the assets we collectively refer to historically as 2RT. We have them neatly packaged in one subsidiary. We have, as some of you know, a small revenue stream where we've proved out a business model based on revenue for procedure fee with the capital equipment sale up front. Currently, we're approved for sale in Europe and Australia, and as I said, we're on a pathway to try and secure FDA approval to treat patients in the early stages of AMD. It is a unique and proprietary mechanism of action, which gives us the flexibility to expand to future indications for use beyond AMD. On page 5, there's a summary of our current technologies. So the business, our shareholders own these 3 things: the iTrack for glaucoma, the lighted catheter, the Multino, which is a little permanent implant in the eye for people with late-stage disease. That picture, just broadly speaking, the device is about as big as a thumbnail, and it's inserted in an operation in patients that have heavily compromised irrigation systems that really do need a permanent assistance. iTrack, on the other hand, is for those in the early stage of the disease where we use that lighted catheter to ream and flush the ocular irrigation systems. HYFY21 2RT is an ophthalmic laser we sold all of our laser business except the rights to 2RT, which we retain, and which our sales efforts related to 2RT are primarily about building additional clinical data, which we'll talk to. Our business now has 55 people. Our offices are shown around the world. We have, starting on the left, headquartered in Fremont in Northern California. We have Nova Eye Inc., which most of our business is in the US. In Germany, in Berlin, we have established Nova Eye Medical GmbH, which is a headquarter for European sales. In New Zealand, we have, following the acquisition in August, in Dunedin, a manufacturing, quality and regulatory system in Dunedin. And then here in Australia, at Kent Town in Adelaide, we have the advanced R&D, our marketing, our global regulatory. We handle APAC sales management from here. Over the page, these are the key numbers. Market cap 49, enterprise value of, after we remove our cash, is 16.5 million. We have a lot of invested directors and management with 14%. Our EBITDA for the period under review, the half year, is 0.8 million, and our glaucoma segment was 0.3 loss. Over the page, our highlights for the two segments was the acquisition of Multino, the advancement of the next generation of eye track that we are working on at the moment across, really headquartered here in Kent Town for that work, using our team in Fremont as well, close to the market. We do have a growth in surgical device unit sales despite the pandemic. So across the period, and I'll talk about it in a sec, it's an 8% increase in the number of units we sold. And there was an establishment of the direct sales business in Germany in November, which is actually going very well, despite the difficulties with getting around there. With our HYFY, the Ide Submission, it's not yet done. We're in a Q&A process with the FDA at the moment. It would have been great to report that that's done. We didn't plan to have it done by today, but it's still a month or two away. And we, of course, established our special purpose company to commercialise this therapy. On page 9, the headline there of 8% growth in units sold. This is a bit busy slide, but I'm trying to highlight the segments of the business and the performance of each of those businesses. Our revenues were down just 1% in constant currency terms in the glaucoma surgical devices segment, and 3% in reported terms. The Australian dollar went against us during the period. The unit sales, we are now combining unit sales of both Multino and iTrack, went from 5,580 units to 6,058 units, so that's the 8% appreciation. Multino is sold at a lower selling price. It's a lower end user price than iTrack. It's about, just as guidance, iTrack end user price is about 2 times the price of the Multino. So you can see there isn't necessarily a relationship. And then when we put in issues like distributor markets and direct markets, currency and a few things, it'd be hard just to, you end up with a small difference between the fact that units went up and our sales went down slightly. Our investment, our Alpharet, as I said, we made a few, but I'll be honest, we sold 1 system during the quarter. It was not during the half, and we continue to have some procedure fees coming in. But our efforts have been very much focused on the clinical preparation of the work with the FDA, and most of the expenditure in that division relates to that. The interest and other income in dollars is the result of the settlement of the final transaction costs and associated with Lumibird transaction. So we have an EBITDA for the group loss of $800,000 or $814,000 compared with $2.9 million in the PCP. So we're pleased that that sort of, and on reduced sales, of course, you can see is primarily we sold a few more 2RTs in the PCP. The glaucoma business has been pretty stable. So in the cost reduction there, about 24% reduction in the operating costs of business. Travel and marketing costs have been materially changed, as well as we slimmed down our people associated with better sales management in the US. Our group balance sheet, of course, the dominant event was getting $61 million out to our shareholders in July. Our total cash as of today is $29 million. We will be paying about $8.2 million in the next few weeks to the tax office as the proceeds for the Lumibird transaction. Of course, that has all been passed through to shareholders as franking credits. Our receivables include another $2 million in escrow associated with the laser business, and our tax return will trigger some of that, the release of a little of that escrow account. On the 22nd of February, we lodged an application for a second round of the US government stimulus called the Paycheck Protection Program. Last year, in May last year, we received $1 million. And we expect, I believe it's going to be a similar amount this year. And that's an imminent type event. Okay, the next slide gives you a picture of the size of Multino, but I just wanted to show here we have two devices for different stages. iTrack for mild to moderate glaucoma and Multino for late stage. Glaucoma, just to recap again, is an incurable disease. We just manage it, and people will progress as they progress, and depending on when they're diagnosed, they need different interventions. So we have a nice coverage of glaucoma, and there's other spaces we'd like to fill in the glaucoma treatment paradigm, I guess they call it. I'm happy with the 12th slide here, which shows the progression over the last few years in the first half. And in the bottom right-hand corner, we talk about a $3.7 million improvement over 2 years. Now, I know sales progression on the top line has obviously been materially impacted by COVID during our current period, but it is in that context, it is still good that we've been able to improve our bottom line result by reducing expenditures. And as well as making our investment in the direct sales in Germany and integrating Multino into the sales channel. So it's certainly not our plan to have flat sales and break-even profit results. I mean, we will aim to improve our EBITDA, but it's sales growth that we will be looking to achieve over as the pandemic in the US subsides. An important bit of work we've done during the half has been some work with our collaborators in the US, led out of Chicago, where there's some 12-month prospective data examining the stability of endothelial cell density, which is a measure of the damage caused by our device to the corneal endothelium. basically any intervention, any operation on your eye causes some damage. It's about minimising that damage. Our highlight is shown in that blue box where iTrack has 4.8% reduction in endothelial cell density, associated importantly in conjunction with cataract surgery. Cataract surgery itself can generate about a 5% reduction in endothelial cell loss. So we're pleased that probably iTrack itself causes no damage. That is a highlight of our device and a big selling point compared to the big names of iStent from Glaucoma and Hydrus from Avantis. And to signal the importance of that, many of you who I know have been on our register for a while, in 2018, Alcon withdrew a device they called CyPass because of endothelial cell loss. So we're currently advancing that study. These results have been really good, and we expect to present more of them at major scientific meetings. The industry feeling is that reducing IOP without endothelial cell loss, without damage to the eye, is a very, very substantial advantage. So that's a big theme in our marketing and sales effort. Talking about Alpha-RET 2RT, and we'll go to slide 15. As I said, we've made continued progress on the investigational device exemption application, IDE, with the FDA to commence a pivotal study for 2RT. We had results. There was a long study we called LEAD, L-E-A-D. It showed some wonderful results in a very large subset. However, because of the impact of certain patients who were not suited to the therapy, the primary endpoint of that study was not met, and as a result, we intend to conduct another study. We still have the results of that study were after we take out the impact of those patients that were not suitable for the treatment, was wonderful. And we're not talking about a small subset. 75% of patients who received the therapy did really well. 25% did not so well. We now will conduct a study that will take out the 25% that did not so well, and we'll do it again. And that process involves a lot of work with the FDA to not only define the protocol, but to make sure the device itself is safe. And a good example of that is the standards for cybersecurity, for instance, now in the United States are very high. We are spending a lot of time working out or making sure that our device can hit those cybersecurity standards, and that has actually slowed up our application. There's no real roadblock to getting this in that is not within our own control. It is just engineering work. Now, there's no FDA-cleared drugs or device-based treatments for the treatment of AMD in its early stage. A number of shareholders have been on our register. I've heard that many times. That has not changed. We still have a leading, as we monitor what's going on, 2RT is still a leading candidate for a major globally unmet need. We, subject to the final design and acceptance and costings for the study, we plan to partner. Our Alpha-RET standalone subsidiary, if required, will facilitate that. 2RT can meet, as I said, a major unmet need. And in February, as an example that the people on this call could probably relate to, the Australian government announced that the spend on pharmaceutical treatments for AMD in its late stage, that's what we call wet AMD, is now the highest spend on the pharmaceutical benefit scheme at nearly $400 million. It just overtook the hepatitis C drug, which was never going to stay there for long because hepatitis actually cures hepatitis C. So it's falling away now. But the $400 million is just going to keep growing. Now that is mirrored in the rankings of expenditure in all major developed countries. It is a very large healthcare problem that we think we can access. And of course, it's not about just curing a healthcare expenditure problem. We have a business model that will ensure that doctors, are able to make some money out of that. That's important. Our outlook, we are business is slimmed down. We have nearly a break-even position within the glaucoma device business. We're making some small investments for 2RT, which I think is really worth it. Continue to do that. And we see measured growth as COVID-19 impacts subside. I mean, the ability of our reps to get into surgery centres, the ability of patients or the desire of patients to go into the surgery centre, and thirdly, the surgery centre's willingness to take patients has all been very problematic in the US through the pandemic. The last two slides are just general information about AMD and glaucoma. We don't need, that's just to make a reader aware. Victor, do you have any closing comments before we open it up?
Yeah, thank you, Tom. So despite the pandemic, we have had a very, very fruitful year. The team has worked very hard amongst the challenges and stresses of the last year, but I'm certainly very pleased with the way we've come through. The team has stuck together and kept their noses to the grindstone. I think we've made some excellent progress. So I'm very pleased with how we've finished the year.
Thanks. So if I could hand it to the call operator, if there are any questions there.
Thank you. If you wish to ask a question, please press *1 on your phone and wait for your name to be announced. If you wish to cancel your request, please press * then 2. If you are using a speakerphone, please pick up the handset to ask your question. The first question comes from Dennis Hume from Taylor Collison. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Tom. You mentioned on the call the next generation iTrack device. Can you just talk a little about what enhancements that new device or modified device will include, and just about the progress and when you anticipate actually being able to launch the new device?
I'll start. I know Victor is heavily involved with that, but the concept of the upgrade is to make the surgery even easier to do. It's a reasonably simple surgery, but we would like to improve the utility and efficiency of the surgery, by having making the insertion of the catheter into the irrigation system more efficient. Victor?
Sure. Look, I would love to tell you lots of information about the new product. However, because this is such a heavily contested area, and a disclosure would really be, shall we say, a big advantage to our competition, it's too sensitive for me to give you much more information other than to say that it is essentially a better, faster means of inserting the catheter. So think of it as a catheter inserter, but in terms of its performance, its features, and the time frame of release, very commercially sensitive matters, which I really would prefer not to disclose at this point in time.
Okay, well, just in relation to the time frame, then, if you can't give the time frame, can you talk us through the steps that you'd need to complete before you're able to release the device?
Yeah, sure, I can, in general terms. So basically, we are very happy with the design. We have had quite a number of skilled surgeons test the device. We've had some less skilled surgeons test the device, and we're getting very, very good performance. We are significantly reducing session times. Having said that, we do not yet have the required approval in place to use this on patients, but that is very close. So we are going through the final production engineering phase, and we are finalising our regulatory approvals, and we are planning the gearing up for production.
Okay, thanks for that. And just in relation to the market and the competition, we know that Sight Sciences have launched their Omni device a couple of years ago. Are you able to talk about the dynamics in the market, particularly in the US, with the devices and how the feedback you're getting about your device versus the Omni device?
Sure. So the Omni device is indeed a well-distributed device. Omni have done a great job. Sight Sciences have done a great job in terms of getting a sales team together and launching a device. The device, for all intents and purposes, looks similar from a distance to what our device is and does. In reality, they're very different. So our device remains the only device that performs true angioplasty of the canal of Schlemm, whereas the Omni device is a rather crude device which is inserted into the canal, and it basically rips a furrow in the canal. So whereas our device, our device, HYFY21, is a very gentle tissue sparing procedure which restores function, there's basically cuts and destroys the original anatomy. Now that does result in temporary pressure relief, just as if you would cut a blood vessel and rather than unblock it, you'd cut it sideways. Sure, the pressure will go down because now the blood can go elsewhere. However, fundamentally, it's still a invasive, shall we say, procedure which changes the anatomy of the eye, which we believe has long-term consequences.
And just to add on to that, our cutting the trabecular meshwork leads to, well, endothelial cell damage is any cutting you do is going to increase that. So you need IOP reduction as well as a traumatic procedure.
So any cutting has associated with it trauma and therefore potential scar formation and therefore a long-term loss of viability of sustained pressure relief. So ours is still the only proven device that has a very, very, very high safety profile because it is very gentle on the anatomy.
So yesterday we had a meeting with one of our leading users in Chicago, in Racine, Wisconsin, and he was telling me that he selected the HYFY21 in the case of the surgery on a 38-year-old woman. So a 38-year-old woman does not need to have things cut up and a whole lot of trauma in her eye. So he selected in that case a HYFY21 to do the work.
Okay, thanks for that. And so my final question, are you able to make any comment on the trading conditions you've seen in the first 2 months of the calendar year?
The impact of COVID we really are highly dependent on the United States and Germany, both of which had very tough Januaries. And then February, we had our blizzard. So they are, January and February are still COVID affected. That's probably the best way of saying it.
Okay, thanks for that. I'll hop back in the queue. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you once again. To ask a question, please press star 1 on your phone. The next question comes from Kush Selva, private investor. Please go ahead.
Hi, Tom, Victor. Thanks for taking my question. Just your first question regarding 2RT. I know obviously you're seeking approval for sale in the US. Obviously, it's available for sale in Europe. What's sort of holding back the sales traction in Europe? Given obviously there's an unmet need for this early stage treatment. So what's holding the sales back there? That's my question.
So we have a view at the moment that our sales, to make sales, you've got to invest in sales reps and marketing and and data that will enable those sales to be efficient. Our overwhelming feedback from the market is that they would like to see more clinical data. So we are using, we've decided to spend less effort on sales and marketing and more effort on the regulatory and engineering work we need to get the clinical data we need. That provides a much more value to shareholders in the short term, in the near term, compared with whether or not we sell devices right now. That's our considered view.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Cheers for that. I'll hop back in the queue. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is a follow-up from Dennis Hume from Taylor Collison. Please go ahead.
Thanks, guys. Can you just talk a little about the Multino integration, how the integration of the sale of that device into your iTrack sales team is going?
Yeah. So before we acquired the business, the Multino device was distributed by a company, doesn't matter what it was called Katina, in the US. So we discontinued Katina and we put the Multino device in the kit bags of our sales reps, and we went out and talked directly to doctors about that. We've had some campaigns. We've had some campaigns and training and started our work. We are making. I mean, the reality is because we're grabbing more margin and selling it, we're manufacturing it in New Zealand and selling it at a pretty good price in the United States. We're grabbing more margin than a Multino had during that same period. Sales are they're good, but our ability to get into the rooms to talk more about Multino has been inhibited by COVID. So introducing new products is actually tricky when you as opposed to getting repeat orders. But I'm actually happy. I'm happy with what we've achieved so far with Multino. We now are only just getting it into our German sales channel. So we've got our first 3 customers in major German teaching institutions. So Multino had no sales in Germany when it was owned by the family. So we see there's growth there. So they're the 2 main changes. The rest have all been about our distributor network. We've just been pushing the existing distributors. So I think it's really, really good that we have the second device, and doctors are pleased to see, Nova Eye with more products, and so our existing customers are willing to give it a go, even though the big companies selling the competitive devices, Johnson & Johnson, which is a big company, New World Medical is a little smaller, but both are saying, look, I really like the iTrack and got Multino, I'd like to give it a chance.
Okay, thanks very much. That's all from me.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Once again, to ask a question, please press star 1 on your phone. The next question comes from Campbell Taylor from Taylor Collison. Please go ahead.
Good day, Tom. Good day, Victor. Thanks for taking my call.
Nice to. Yeah.
How you going? Look, I'm interested on the iTrack. There was obviously, there was some sales declines before the impact of COVID, And I'm just wondering if you can comment on, all things being equal, whether you think you've arrested that momentum in terms of sales decline.
Yeah, that's correct. I think during the period leading to 30 June 2020, that was, I'm just going to get my thing. Yeah, so we changed over our sales leadership in the United States in November 2018. So allowing a month or two, so just say January 2019. Sorry, I've got my years out. We changed over sales leadership in November 2019. Sorry, Ken, 2019.
Yep.
And that has then we messed around, and January was great, and February was pretty good, and then COVID hit. So I actually measure. What I can say is that we've set targets. As a smaller company, you set targets about how much money you've got to spend and cash burn and all those things. And Joe Bankovich in the US has done a good job hitting all those targets. And so we've got a really humming team there. And so our sales management, OPEX is easy to cut, but having a sales manager who can work within what he has and optimises every single day and every single rep has been really exciting. So it's a pity that his efforts have been compromised by COVID-19, because we would have seen better growth. So I think the answer to the question, the simple answer is that we're doing a lot better now with new sales leadership.
Great. So you can assume that your market share on the iTrack front is either constant or improving.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I mean, the Omni device, Dennis pointed out, the Omni device came in, and all doctors, that did impact us as well. But where the Omni device now, when we start talking and marketing with respect to the atraumatic nature of iTrack, is a big selling point.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, to ask a question, please press star 1 on your phone. We'll pause to allow parties to enter the queue. At this time, we're showing no further questions. I'll hand the conference back to Mr. Spurling.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody taking the time on a busy day, February 25, lots of listed companies. So thanks for taking the time to listen to our story. And if you have any questions, please send me an email if you want to talk any more about things that I can talk about. Thank you.